Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Absolute Batman issue 3 by Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta and Frank Martin. Bruce Wayne of the Absolute Universe has his past further explored this issue as Scott Snyder takes us back to his childhood again, showing us his relationship with Selina Kyle, who taunts the boy with his lost medallion, and if he wants it back, he's gotta catch her. This leads to a cat and mouse, pun intended, game across the roofs of Gotham. Despite her playful nature though, Selina ends up being a pretty good teacher for Bruce, telling him that if he ever is scared of heights or, just life in general, all he has to do is keep his eyes ahead and not see the drop, but to see past it to what's on the other side. Obviously it's a lesson bigger than just tightrope walking across cables 2 stories up, and will probably end up becoming one of Bruce's core tenets, keep your eyes ahead, keep your eyes to the future. Bruce does this exactly, quite literally I might add, as in the present the Batmobile, revealed last issue to be a giant construction dump truck, barrels its way straight through the streets of Gotham. As Alfred, in all his years and experiences as a spy and mercenary, has never seen anything like this, and it's so over the top to him. I really like Alfred being caught off guard, and it's really been a through line across these 3 issues where he's come back to Gotham thinking he has a bead on this Batman and what he's all about and his modus operandi is, but then Batman does something completely out of pocket and takes him for a loop, like barreling down Main Street in a bat-themed dump truck. It keeps him and us readers guessing on what's going to happen next and tells us that this is not going to obviously be like a la Batman iterations before it. We can't really guess what is going to happen. We can kind of take guesses, but really where it's going, no one but Scott Snyder and his team knows. Alfred is given 30 seconds to make his case to Batman, and as the party animals pursue them through the streets, Alfred tells him that the Black Mask, the leader of a secret paramilitary group who destabilizes governments, is the one behind the party animals. And he reveals that Roman Sionis is the Black Mask. Again, we are treated to a moment where Alfred kind of underestimates Batman, thinking his lumbering dump truck is going to get them all killed because of how slow, cumbersome it is. But as we know, Bruce is an accomplished engineer, and he still has a few surprises left as he's able to kind of transform the truck into a more traditional looking Batmobile, one that's a little bit more low profile to the ground, a little bit more sleek, yet is still the size of a giant dump truck. And the new version of the Batmobile looks very cool. It's just kind of an oversized version of the one we saw in The Batman, complete with homemade jet engines in the back. Now, something this Batmobile has that others don't is a gunner seat, and Alfred takes command of it, blasting party animals with mini bat projectiles which are designed to blow out tires and shock people, not kill. Something Alfred again finds himself kind of groaning over, like of course he has mini bat themed projectiles. As Alfred blasts the bad guys though, he tells Batman that if Sionis is Black Mask, then he is too big to go against and has too many resources, but Batman doesn't care, figuring that he will just build bigger and better things to fight him with. This is when Alfred proposes a very interesting plan to Batman, telling him to take the deal that Black Mask offered him in the last issue and go and meet with him, and maybe the attacks will die down. Bruce of course refuses to give up, and I really like how Alfred doesn't view it as that, but as Batman getting a chance to set himself up with something of actual impact in Gotham. And if Sionis takes the deal, then he will reveal his hand and Alfred's handlers can then move in and take him down. While Alfred has been talking, the GCPD have begun to close in on Batman, with Harvey Bulock and his men cornering them down by the docks. I really like what Alfred is doing here, where we're getting a bit more of a traditional Alfred for a moment. Alfred has always been someone who has had Bruce's best intentions in mind, and he often very dislikes the fact that he is Batman or has to be Batman, thinking that he can find another way to battle the forces of evil. And we see a version of that here where he's trying to make a compromise in Bruce's vision where he can stop all of this and stop being Batman, and he might actually be able to make an impact. He's trying to get him to look around and look down when Bruce is focused on looking ahead of him. It's a wonderfully interesting take on their dynamic, and I love that it's tied into the lessons we saw Selina teach him in the first page. Despite being cornered though, Batman gets Alfred to pull a lever in the car, which ejects the spy and seals the Batmobile as it leaps into the Gotham Bay, continuing to drive on the bottom of the bay towards Batman's newest hidden cave underneath it. Again, this is just more stuff you just don't expect, but also do expect. Like, this is very like Batman's plan for every sort of outcome sort of thing, but it's just something you don't expect from this Batman who is definitely on the back foot most of the time, yet he still has access to all of this cool technology and cool feats of engineering, like a Batmobile that can turn into like a submarine, an enclosed submarine that will take him to his newest Batcave, which is underwater. It's just so cool. In the past, we learn more about Selina's situation, finding that she is bumming around between foster homes, never really finding a place to call home, and it's alluded to that maybe she actually doesn't want one and would rather just be out in the city with all of the stray cats who have seemingly found Selina and view her as their leader. Bruce tries to convince her to stay with him and his mother, but Selina refuses and quickly tries to change the subject to the lion from the Gotham Zoo, figuring that would be a happier topic to talk about. However, Bruce doesn't really understand how it could be a happier topic, seeing as, you know, the last time he was at the Gotham Zoo, his father was murdered in front of him. Selina knows it's happy though, because thanks to the zoo being closed down after that event, they are sending the lion back to Africa where it will be set free. Now, this is obviously Selina alluding to the fact that this, you know, traumatic, terrifying event that happened, there was like a silver lining to it in a way. This is her trying to find like some light in the darkness. And in a way, it not only is talking about the lion, but it's also talking about like Bruce as well, where like he came out the other side of this event hardened, and it made him turn to Batman. It made him become Batman, and is the reason why he became Batman. Eventually, Selina takes Bruce into a dark theater where she wants to show him Zorro, the movie Bruce was meant to see with his parents the day his father was murdered, so this makes him visibly upset. In the present, Bruce goes to see Edward, who has been building his very own artificial intelligence robot, which while Edward doesn't have a name for yet, it's pretty obvious he's going to end up calling it the Riddler, and this is probably going to be this universe's Riddler, not Edward. Edward's going to be like kind of the guy behind it. This is a very cool update to the Riddler, turning him effectively into an AI robot that spouts out riddles. Things are getting a little bit meta here, obviously, as the idea that the AI thinks it's a lot smarter than it actually is, but it's pretty easily manipulatable and can be beaten and tricked easily, which in a lot of ways applies to the Riddler in general. He's smart, but not as smart as he thinks he is. Other people have easily manipulated him in the past to do their bidding, and it's always plainly obvious when it's a Riddler scheme. You can tell a mile off, kind of like how with AI, if you look at AI images or AI video, you can clearly tell this was made by AI. There's like little markers that you can see, and you can see that in a Riddler plan as well. Edward is eager for Bruce to talk with the robot, and after some reluctance, Bruce asks what is with the party animal's skull and what does it work with and how does it work. The robot reveals that the mask has three main functions. It obstructs the user's identity from any and all identification systems. It connects the user to a mass wallet of cryptocurrency called the Black Coin, and it gives the wearer targets and objectives to complete with different quote-unquote scores for different heinous acts of violence, which in turn gives the user access to more money depending on what kind of crime they commit. This is some much needed development of Black Mask and his whole deal, updating it for a modern time with things like cryptocurrency. There's also this kind of competitive social media aspect to it, where the more out there heinous things get rewarded the most. The robot also begins to echo things Alfred was saying, revealing that the network Bruce wants to take down is far too large, made up of hundreds if not thousands of members. Bruce still thinks that there is a way to beat them, and it's Edward who implores him to stop looking into this. Not in some nefarious way though, he's not trying to hide something, but he's just doing it because he doesn't want to see his friend get hurt. Something that Edward is quick to remind Bruce that he's one of his only friends in this world and he doesn't want to see him get hurt. Bruce refuses to give up, and Harvey soon calls him with information about the Arkham fund that Bruce asked him to track down. Harvey found out that most of the money comes from a company called JK Holdings, which has its fingers in a lot of things, especially black site prisons. Now obviously JK Holdings is meant to be, Joke Holdings, JK being the acronym for joke, and further cements my theory that the Joker is behind all of this, or at least funding Black Mask to sow chaos in Gotham. It's also a very League of Shadows plan, sow chaos into a place and then come in and kind of like wipe the slate clean, and Joker is now somewhat the leader of the League of Shadows. We still haven't had much confirmation apart from that part in the first issue where it was revealed that he had killed their leadership. So I'm guessing he is now in control of their resources, and this is what he is using it for. He's just like bankrolling private militaries around the world to destabilize governments. I really love all of this detective type work Bruce and his friends are doing, since it's so new and different. Usually Batman would be kind of doing this all himself, sitting in front of the Bat computer, mulling over, data and evidence and stuff, but he's got this great little network of friends here who are helping him sift through all of that information and giving their ideas on what's going on. As I said last issue, there is also this air of Bruce kind of manipulating these people, and he's kind of masking as their friend, like he's not all that interested in their lives. He's kind of cut off from them, and he knows their use and has decided to manipulate them into helping him. And it's made especially clear here when they all want to keep their heads down out of the bigger picture. They have their best intentions for Bruce here, where they want him to keep down and not rock the boat, but Bruce doesn't want to do that. But it doesn't stop them coming to bat for Bruce either. Elsewhere in Gotham, Bulock goes to meet with former Mayor Hill, who introduces him to Roman Sionis, who's busy in the body room, a private training room in the bowels of his luxury yacht. Snyder does some brilliant world building here, and really surprising world building, as Roman is sparring with Bibo Babowski, former Southpaw champ from Metropolis. For people who might not know, Bibo is a Superman character. He's one of Superman's best friends, so to see him here is quite surprising, and in a role as like the heavy that Roman is sparring with is quite cool. As Roman spars with Bibo, he reveals to Harvey that he sees himself as a professional pacifist, bringing peace to troubled areas of the world, and Gotham could use some of this. Roman frames it like, thanks to Jim Gordon, some quote-unquote bad people have been taking advantage of the city, and he can put a stop to it if he wants. And I really like how Roman is manipulating the conversation here. He, placates Jim and says that, he's a good guy, and he knows not to go after Jim because he and Bulock have a relationship, being that they were both cops together. So instead he targets the Batman, the thing he knows Bulock is, going hardcore after, and even wants to give Bulock everything he needs to catch the Batman. While he talks, Roman systematically takes down Bibo, breaking his arm and leg and not even stopping when he taps out. Instead he strangles the man right in front of Harvey, who tries to stop him before it's too late. Roman does assure Bibo is alive, but I don't know, it's fairly certain that he's dead. At least that's how the art made it look like. He's got big bloodshot eyes, he's not moving on the ground, eyes are open, mouth's agape. So he could definitely be dead, though I wonder if this is how Bibo becomes the main universe Bibo, where he's a little slow, he isn't all that smart. It's because he's got some brain damage here because of Black Mask. Maybe that's the horrible reasoning behind that in this absolute universe. That would be very horrifying if that's how Bibo comes about, because Black Mask beat the shit out of him. As Roman and Harvey go and talk about peace, Bruce meanwhile goes and surveys the Arks, the black site prisons that Arkham Fund is running out of, and learns that Harvey has dug up a bunch of different arcs, and it's revealed here that Arkham is not the first, and it's actually one of many, and all of them have a designation from the letter of the alphabet, with the first arc being Arc A, which was in Santa Prisca, which is where Bane is from. Arc B is in Russia, Arc C is in China, and so on and so forth, and Arc M is planned for Gotham, sitting just off the coast of the city, basically where Arkham Asylum usually is in Gotham and Batman lore. Bruce's past comes back to haunt him a little bit as he tries to leave the theatre Selina took him to, but she soon stops him, talking about the joke he made about the lion the day his dad died, and how his father told him that the lion in captivity didn't mean anything in its life and it didn't make it change. But maybe Bruce can use this chance, this horrible incident that happened to him and his father, to actually make a change in the world, and he can keep doing so by focusing on what's right in front of him and right ahead of him. Selina Selina also reveals that this was a big surprise and Bruce's other friends arrive to join him in watching the movie, and it's a nice little wholesome moment for the book filled with lots of dark stuff. In the present, Bruce finally gets to talk with his mother, asking her, with everything going on, if she could lay low for a little bit. Martha, however, like her son, refuses to back down from a fight and in fact is stepping up as Gotham's deputy mayor. Bruce is not impressed with this, citing how his mother has now an even bigger bullseye on her back, and this perfectly mirrors Bruce's story with battling the party animals. He refuses to break his promises and morals to placate some rich guy and won't back down from the fight, and Martha is doing exactly the same. Except she's doing it out in the open, in the light, and not in the shadows like Batman. It's so interesting seeing Bruce watching this path open before him thanks to his mother. There is a way to do what he is doing in the light and actually make a difference, but he refuses to do that because he doesn't see it that way, but thanks to what has happened to him. It feels like this is the universe almost correcting itself, that there has to be a Batman in any way, shape or form, because that's just how things are. While Bruce deals with some familial problems, Alfred deals with his own as he's tracked down his daughter Julia, spying on her from his creepy panel van as she looks after the children she teaches at a local school. Alfred's through line about accepting what's in front of you is so interesting, since he's kind of doing the opposite here with Julia, where she doesn't want anything to do with him, but he figures he can change that. He figures he can just placate and change everything about that. It's so interesting. We have a world filled with so many hypocrites, for a better lack of a word, and it's in that regard that it's so much like real life, with people telling you one thing should be followed or adhere to, but the moment that it starts affecting them or start changing what they do day to day, they want to try and change it again. Alfred continues to tell Bruce to just accept what is happening to the city, and there is nothing that he can do as Batman to change it. And thanks to what's happening, Hill announces Bulock, and by extension the GCPD, are backing him for his run for mayor again. Now there's some really big Trump vibes going on with Hill. He's an older former mayor who's stoking the fires and fueling fear for the people to go and vote for him again, promising that he'll quote unquote clean it all up if re-elected. However, he's the one, making it worse by spouting hateful and violent rhetoric. Hill announces that instead of turning on the memorial light this year, they are going to keep it off just for the fact that it won't shine a light on the blood in the streets. Now I can see where things are going with this light. This light's going to become the Bat Signal, and what a fantastic reimagining. It's the memorial of the incident that led to Batman being created, not just some random floodlight on the top of the GCPD, and it gives it more reverence in Batman's lore and history and origin. And I can't wait to see it become the signal in, I guess, the end of the first arc. I guess that's probably going to be like, the final panel. Everyone's accepted Batman. How do you get in contact with him? You activate the light. Bruce meanwhile listens to Black Mask's deal again, where he's offered $200 million, and in exchange for Batman standing down, the party animals will begin to take it easy on Gotham. And surprisingly, the book ends with Bruce taking the deal, effectively making him a millionaire now. Now I have to assume this is all part of the plan, and Bruce has something in the works which will allow him to take down Black Mask, but I also like the idea of him using the villain's own money against him, and maybe it will just be that simple. Like with all of the money Bruce has now, he can make bigger and better dump trucks and weapons and everything, and he ends up defeating the villain just because his tech gets more bombastic and ridiculous and they can't keep up with him. Either way, I think Scott and his team have something very fun in store for Batman's first battle with Black Mask, and I can't wait for it. Absolute Batman continues to move from strength to strength, and just like Alfred says, when you think you've got a handle on the story, it goes in a wildly different and creative way. I love this idea of always looking forward to the future, keeping focus on what's right in front of you, and how Snyder utilizes Selina Kyle and Bruce's childhood relationship to build up Batman's unshakable will when it comes to dealing with the scum of Gotham. We also get some really neat new iterations of familiar characters. Like, I really love what they do with the Riddler in this issue, and how they tackle things like AI and robots and stuff like that within his story, kind of shifting what he is as a character, as well as Black Mask. Black Mask has never really been an interesting character to me, just because he's really just kind of generic gangster man, but what Scott and his team have done here with the character has made him just wildly interesting. interesting. He is so much better than his main universe counterpart, and I can't wait to see what else they have in store for the villain. I am going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.